Or like, oh, they have the mouse in the pocket of the jacket because the person's really in the coat rack doing the puppet. Like Bear has the big bird arms, which is one arm is just standard, and then the other arm is the actual hand, but the guy's other hand is up in the head, who's doing the like all the stuff. So he's walking around like this, and it's just so fun to look at, especially because we were talking earlier about the Muppets. You don't see this stuff anymore.
Hello everyone, welcome to Nerdy and Nice. This is our 39th episode of the podcast, and let's just start things off by saying happy early birthday, Lacey. How are you?
Oh, thanks. I'm good. Older. Almost older.
Almost.
2
days.
Yes.
What are your big plans for your birthday this year?
Nothing.
No cake, no singing happy birthday with the kids.
I am not a fan of the birthday song. Don't like it. It'll probably be sung to me anyway, I'm sure. But yeah, I guess maybe go out to lunch or something because my mom's here with the kids, so might be a good chance to get out for a little bit. Other than that, I don't really have any plans, but that's okay. Once you have children, not having plans and just being is sometimes nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, whatever you do, I hope you have a great birthday.
Thank you.
To many more.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah. Yes. I'll get you that waffle you want to get in Japan. I'll put a birthday candle on it for you.
What waffle? What are you talking about?
Are we going to eat a waffle or something?
Pancakes.
Pancakes.
Keep up, John.
I'm a waffle guy.
I had a waffle bar last weekend and I killed it.
Oh yeah, that's right. So what? Give me a quick rundown of your go-to for your waffle bar. Your personal, like you're at the bar and you're picking up your waffle. What's going on that thing?
Well, I actually went a little different than what I normally pick. So I made waffles, and then you had like fruit and syrup and chocolate chips if you wanted it, or whipped cream or sprinkles or whatever. I also made fried chicken and tater tots. So I had chicken and waffles myself.
I think that's what you had served at your baby shower I went to. I think there was chicken and waffles there.
It was not chicken and waffles.
Oh.
Yes, it was. Yes, you're right. Yes. Sorry, I was thinking about Archer's birthday. You're right. My baby shower was chicken and waffles.
Yeah, that's right. See? I remember stuff. I also remember that we had a giveaway contest. The first ever giveaway contest on Nerdy and Nice. It was called Nerdy for Squid Game. And basically all you had to do was go to Apple, go to Spotify, go to your podcast app, rate us, take a screenshot, and post it to your social media with hashtag Nerdy for Squid Game. And the winner was going to take home the red light, green light electronic doll from Squid Game, as well as these Netflix orbs with these tiny little cool miniatures in there.
Like props, yeah.
Which we have a video of us unboxing those coming soon. But someone won because someone did it. And the person who won is who, Lacey?
Terry. What up, Terry?
Terry! Congrats!
Congratulations, Terry.
Big win. Terry's been a big supporter of Nerdy and Nice in addition to the Resistance broadcast. And she did it. And she won.
You did
it. We will get your information. We will get that stuff out to you, Terry. Congratulations. And be careful playing the Squid Game. It's safe. It's fine. It's like made by like Mattel or something. But Lacey, a warm-up before we get handed over to you for the news came out shortly before we were recording that rumors are heating up that it's quite possible John Lithgow is going to play Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series. Your quick thoughts?
I hate it. I'm gonna be honest, I hate it. You can't go from Richard Harris to Lithgow. Come on. All I see is Lord Farquaad. That's all I see.
What's with the Michael Gambon erasure with you?
I don't talk about him. He doesn't count.
That is a heated hot take, but all right.
Is it a hot take? I've said this before.
I know.
He took the character of Dumbledore and made it different than what it should have been. You took Richard Harris's calm, collected, his whole monologue to Harry in the first movie at the end when he talks about, you know, what happened, and then he, like, eats Bernie Bott's every flavored beans. It's so beautiful and calm and, like, just, like, majestic is how I would describe it. Like, such a calming, like, energy. Knowledgeable, wise, like the Dumbledore. And then you go to that other guy.
Oh, man.
And now even more of a downgrade with Lithgow.
Whoa.
Wait. Like, who did he pay to get that role is what I want to know.
Was Michael Gambon's Dumbledore departure from how he was in the books? Because the books did get more serious, right? So
I don't know what that means. Is Richard Harris not serious? He's a Shakespearean actor.
No, I mean, the Dumbledore gets, like, the character gets more serious in nature as the stakes raise in those movies.
He gets more serious, but he doesn't get animated to the point of attacking Harry and grabbing the front of his shirt like he did in Goblets of Fire.
That didn't happen?
No. Erroneous on all accounts.
I loved it. It's great.
Ugh.
All right, so Lithgow.
Anyway, Lithgow, Farquaad, get out of here. Some people are saying it's definite. Deadline saying it's a rumor. We'll see. There have been a couple people that have been rumored to get this role. I guess it comes down to who did a good job / I'm sure star power is falling into that somehow because it's WB and they don't know how to do anything. And then you have also scheduling, I'm sure, like who's available, who's not.
I like John Lithgow enough. I'm not like the hugest fan of his, but I do like him and respect that he's been around for so long.
But for Dumbledore, I'm speaking for Dumbledore.
Yeah, I don't see him as Dumbledore. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
But
thank you very much.
We will see if he can convince me, I guess. But we'll see what happens with that story. This is just a recent little drop, so we'll see what comes of that. But now it is time to get into our main stories of what's happening.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
To no surprise, we're back to Snow White on this show. The first story is that Snow White hits long lead tracking. Will live action take of Disney's classic whistle a happy tune? Like, who comes up with these titles? Like, why not just say what the point is instead of, like, trying to be creative about it? Oh, this is coming from Deadline. All right. So they're saying that they're going to say this movie is going to make $65 million in the first 3 days, first weekend, which I'm not sure. Is that good? Is that bad? Sleeping Beauty opened up to a $69.4 million back in early summer of 2014. And Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which also starred Rachel Ziegler, made about $44.6 million. So they're saying that this one's kind of in the middle, that it's on track, that it could potentially do fine at the box office. Do you think it's actually going to do this well, John? Do you think someone's fluffed a couple metrics right now?
I don't believe in Rachel Ziegler as a box office draw. I don't think people go to the movie theater to see a Rachel Ziegler movie. And I don't think history has proven that either. She may have been in movies that made some money, like the Hunger Games movie. I don't know how much they ended up making, but I think it was people going to see a Hunger Games movie, not going to see Rachel Ziegler in the Hunger Games movie. So,
I mean, they're making another Hunger Games movie too.
Yeah. So, and with Snow White, I mean, I just took the family to Disney a few months ago, and aside from the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which is really the Seven Dwarfs more than anything, there's really not a lot going on with Snow White at Disney World anywhere. Merch, not much. There really isn't.
Yeah.
And it's one of the older animated movies. I don't know what the fan base is because it's so old that people who were kids when that came out might not be around anymore. It's very weird and interesting. And then of course we've beaten it over the head, but the PR missteps by her, and of course Gal Gadot, whose favor with the public has not gone up since all that stuff has
yeah, she's not really a big fan with anybody.
So I don't know. I have a feeling that this one isn't going to do very well. I'm not a box office expert, but I don't know what if there's a big draw or audience for Snow White right now. I don't know that. I do know that Rachel Zegler is not enough to pull people into a theater, and the same with Gal Gadot at this point. And I am just curious to see how they try to convince people that this is the movie to go see, especially when this one's been also littered with criticism on how the dwarves look and a lot of the choices that they're apparently making narratively. Now we'll see if in April or whenever Rachel Zegler pops onto a late night couch, if they give her the Ariana Grande PR makeover and all of a sudden she's Snow White and she's all about Snow White finding love and true romance, maybe she convinces people and tricks people. But I remember the stuff she said, and it didn't sound like Snow White to me. It didn't sound like a Snow White movie I'd go take my daughter to. So
are you saying Ariana's tricking people?
No, but I'm saying that, and we'll get into it later, I guess, but I think there has been a clear shift in her public presence and how she puts herself forth since Wicked came out and the Wicked PR machine.
Okay.
Compared to when she was like licking donuts in a donut shop and saying Americans were stupid and stuff like that.
I still think she believes that, but sure.
We'll talk about it. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with Snow White. I don't know that it's going to do that well. I'm not necessarily rooting against it, but I'm also not in love with the idea of Disney really leaning hard into these quote unquote live action remakes. So, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this one's going to surprise people and actually be a big hit or what?
I never knew people were so into Snow White until this movie was announced. And then all these people started being like, oh my God, Snow White's so amazing. And I'm like, since when? It's a pretty simple story. I mean, it's not like bad or anything, but I mean, it's kind of creepy when you think about it. A woman goes into the woods, lives with 4 random dudes, like cleans their house and then gets poisoned. And the only way she can get poisoned is if some dude kisses her without her knowing because she's asleep and then wakes up. Like, the story isn't exactly like a fun story. Which, going back to what you said about the publicity so far, Gal Gadot and Rachel have both been like, she's not going to get saved by the prince. And it's like, okay, but that's the point of the story. Like,
that was my favorite one. When Gal Gadot interrupts her, she's like, and the prince is not going to save her. I'm like, all right, Gal.
Oh my gosh. I was just looking up really quickly for my own knowledge because I knew this was part of the conversation. As Snow White originally came out in 1937. So I think a lot of these films, when you're doing the live action thing, number one, of course, Disney's looking to make money. But I was curious with this one in particular is when it became public domain for people to use, like copyright wise. And I guess it became public domain last year in April. So the rights to the original Snow White fairy tale is public domain. They hold the copyright to its 1937 film adaptation. However, it seems like it's more open to other people telling the story, I guess, or using the characters for whatever they want, which is why you're seeing, interestingly enough, these like horror movies coming out with like Winnie the Pooh and stuff. But one of the things is when they make these live action movies, they then lock down more copyright stuff because it's a current rendition. That was also the similar thing with Marvel rights with Spider-Man, is if Sony didn't make a movie in so many years, those things would then default back to Marvel, which is what happened with a lot of stuff with like Netflix, with Daredevil, or the 20th Century Fox stuff, which ultimately went to Disney anyway, but it was like within their rights of the film that if they didn't make movies in a certain period of time, they would then default on those rights. So I think those things also play into this. That being said, if we're talking strictly about box office numbers, which you and I both have said numerous times that we don't really care how a movie does as long as it's a good movie. I don't think this movie is going to do so good. It hasn't had a good public reaction from first looks at D23, from the announcement itself to who is playing who, from the Queen to Snow White. I agree with you. I don't, and we talked about this before, I don't think Rachel Zegler has a huge pull right now. She was discovered on social media. She was in West Side Story with Steven Spielberg and didn't get the recognition. So I don't know how you go from Spielberg to this and people think she's going to get even more recognition. Look, the girl can sing. I'm not taking that away from her. I've seen numerous videos where she is just a powerhouse when it comes to singing. But there is something to be said that it seems like she's being handed these roles over and over and over again. When I'm not sure why. Like, to me. Anyway. I don't think she's not she, but I don't think this movie's going to do well. And like you said, John, it's going to be interesting when they start to impress for it. If her tune will change from the original press rounds. I'm sure they are getting her in some media training and Gal in some media training, especially given even more than Rachel Zegler, people do not like Gal Gadot.
No.
She hit a high with Wonder Woman and then also hit the low with Wonder Woman. And the stuff she did during the pandemic didn't hit well. People, so the whole Imagine video, the stuff she said about, Israel and a bunch of other topics that are not favorable with people are just not going well. And it just seems like she speaks oftentimes from topics that she doesn't have a full understanding of. Hey, the prince, she doesn't need to be saved by the prince, when the whole point of the story is that this character finds true love, which is funny because we were just talking about romance on TRB, and here we are talking about a story that's literally surrounded, the story in itself, the main through thread is love, is true love. And they're like, no, we can't do that. It's too weak for the main character. Like, what? The whole point of Snow White is love.
Yeah, and the only basis that they can go back to from a retrospective angle is the original Disney adaptation. And you had Rachel Zegler out there saying, like, the original was made in 1937, very evidently so. And it's like, so you're saying you shouldn't be following that? Then what are you doing? So it's just the whole, I mean, people aren't as dialed in, I guess, as like we are to those things. So I don't know how far that reached with like TikTok and Instagram and those clips circling, but they'll come back around. People are going to make sure
her clip from TikTok got like 9 million views, 29 million views, something like that.
Yeah, and it's possible that they are, like I was saying, like just like trying to get her to appear on these shows as though it's Snow White and have her be like more, polite and tempered and that sort of thing to sell people on that she's Snow White, and the Snow White that they think of is that singing, beautiful singing, lighthearted, loving Snow White. So we'll see, but yeah, I don't know. It looks like it's set up to be a disaster.
Speaking of disaster, our next story kind of touches on one, which was Indiana Jones 5. The next story was via Variety, which talks about Harrison Ford says, quote, "Shit happens" over Indiana Jones 5 flop. And then he joined the MCU with no script, saying that he saw other actors, quote, "having a good time" in Marvel movies. I did see a funny tweet from someone that said, how much debt is Harrison Ford in that he keeps doing these movies, which I don't think he is. I think he just wants to be in blockbuster movies right now. I can't speak to Harrison Ford flop unless I am honest, which is they tried to sell it as it's Indiana Jones, right? And everyone's going, who's Indiana Jones? I think Disney and Lucasfilm misunderstood the popularity of Indiana Jones and who they needed to sell it to. Because I think people our age and older probably knew who it was. I think people our age and younger did not. If they didn't grow up with it or have siblings or parents or uncles or grandparents that loved Indiana Jones, it's not in the public eye enough like it used to be. especially since the whole Marvel superhero point in pop culture. I think that kind of shifted a lot of pop culture references and popularity and attention from things like Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, Star Trek. Like those things kind of took a side to superheroes. And this is no different than that. And we've said that about Star Wars too on TRB of Star Wars can't be sold as just Star Wars anymore. It needs to be sold as a bigger thing to get someone's butt in the seats. It can't just be like, hey, show up because it's Star Wars, because no one's going to care anymore. They need to be convinced. And Indiana Jones 5 was no different. I know that going into Indiana Jones 5, we were told by a bunch of different people that this is the best film ever. And oh my God, it's so wonderful. We heard from all these kind of people in Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm adjacent that were very hyped on it and saying how good of a film it was. You went to the premiere, which was really wonderful for you to experience as someone that's probably the bigger Indiana Jones fan out of the two of us. But I'll be honest, I watched it months later and I did not like it at all. I thought it was boring. I thought the character from Phoebe Waller-Bridge was not likable. Like she did not do a good job. It just was an unfortunate sequel. It came across to me like a money grab. Like very much like, hey, we just want to make an Indiana Jones movie because we want to make money and it's Indiana Jones, right? And you're like, okay, but what was the point of this? Like it didn't have the same magic of the first or the third, because I haven't seen the second one. Those that I saw. Like this one just didn't match up. And yeah, I just didn't like it. So I understand why it flopped, because people made choices of not to see it. And people need to understand from the marketing perspective or Lucasfilm or Disney's perspective of if people see your film and don't like it, they're going to tell everybody they don't like it. And people did that. Now, John, as someone who did like it, I'm going to let you chime in here.
Yeah, I did like Dial of Destiny. I thought it was a well-shot movie, well-made movie. I think they had some missteps in the beginning with the de-aged Indiana Jones, because they just didn't even acknowledge the voice. They were just like, we're just going to have 80-year-old Harrison Ford do the voice, and that threw me out. But ultimately, I got what I went into that movie looking for, which was just seeing Indiana Jones doing his thing, but with limited capabilities that he had before. And it's like, you know, as you're getting older and you realize like, you know, one day you're not going to be able to do this, whether that's like leap 5 steps or something. Like one day your body's just going to be like, you can't do that anymore. And they show that a lot in this movie, where like, if you look back to, you're like, man, if this was a previous Indiana Jones movie, he'd be in it. He'd have no problem right now. But now he's in a tough spot. And just seeing Harrison Ford give it his all at his age was really all I needed to take away from that. I'm not big on Indiana Jones being some massive lore or mythology. I like that we get to go on adventures with this guy and get a peek inside like what his life is like, whether it's, you know, he has his father and then his son and his loves and all that stuff. And it was enough for me, and I walked away like being happy that I got to see it, because I was like, wow, I'm watching an Indiana Jones movie with new John Williams music in 2022. This is insane. So I guess it's how you approach it. And yes, I am a pretty big Indiana Jones fan. They're my comfort movies when I'm sick. So I did love it. So it was a little like hard to hear him talk about it, like with the shit happens. And he did say like, he's like, I was the one really pushing for this story. I really wanted to see this guy at this age with these limited faculties. And you could tell he probably seemed a little hurt the fact that it didn't do as well, or that it didn't get the reception he was looking for, because I think he probably put his all into this. Like at the age he was filming that thing, like 77, 78 years old, that's a lot to ask somebody. And you know, Harrison Ford, there were shots of him behind the scenes still doing quite a bit of physical stuff. So I do feel bad from that perspective. But you're right, you know, we talked about it on TRB, like you can't bank on this legacy stuff. And we've talked about it with Disney, with the Muppets. We talked about it with Star Wars. We talked about it with Indiana Jones. Like the one thing, the modern regime anyway, the last 5+ years or so, they seem to be struggling understanding how to reach audiences with these legacy franchises. And I don't know why that is. Like the Muppets are sort of being cast aside at this point. Like they're getting rid of Jim Henson's Muppets 3D. Like
the
Star
Muppets
Wars
are
we talked
being
about.
treated like an advertising product, which is one of the main things that Jim never wanted to happen to the Muppets, and or some of the performers that were handpicked by the Hensons to continue the legacy, like the Kermit voice and stuff, ended up getting fired and or leaving on their own because they said Jim never wanted this. Like these
Frank Oz has
characters,
been vocal about that too.
yeah, these characters are for teaching lessons, they're for entertainment, they're for families, they're for children, and they're selling, they're selling out the Muppets to booking.com. And booking.com, by the way, had one of the highest ratings of views on YouTube for Super Bowl ads. And yet everybody's comments were, so when are you going to put them in a movie? When are you going to do something with these characters? And again, it just seems like Disney time and time again keeps fumbling these beautiful, classic, nostalgic characters for money. It's like they're throwing them into a juicer and just trying to get as much money out of them instead of actually wanting to tell good stories with them.
Yeah, the perfect example of that is getting rid of the last thing Jim Henson directed and made and saying, well, don't worry, because we're going to re-theme the Aerosmith Roller Coaster Muppets. And it's like, that is not the same. And
it is not. And they, not only that, they have plenty of space down there in Florida that they could have put the Monsters Inc. land elsewhere.
Yeah. Or moved the Muppets 3D somewhere else. Like, it's just so strange to me. But I'm sort of taking it on a tangent. But it is like this theme. And like Indiana Jones, like, remember that when they were marketing that, so many of the posters were like the shadow of his face. And like, why wasn't, like, Harrison Ford loves doing these late night shows. He lives, he has a home in the LA area.
He'll fly right in.
He could have went to Kimmel, done like a whip challenge. He could have brought fedoras for the crowd. They could have done some viral marketing stuff to get to the younger audiences, but you have to get to the network TV stuff so the older audience who grew up on Indiana Jones is like, oh, they're making another Indiana Jones? Yeah. Oh, and they watch a clip and it's like this great chase scene. People be like, you know what? I'm going to go see the one more Indiana Jones. I'm going to go see it. None of that happened. None of it happened. So it's just like, it's either arrogance in this belief that, oh, it's a Han Solo movie, people will go see it, or it's Indiana Jones, people will go see it, or it's, the Muppets, or it's Snow White, people will go see it. It's like, you got to treat your classic stuff with the same amount of urgency that you're treating your new stuff. And it's evident. The fact that an Indiana Jones movie bombed, the fact that a Star Wars movie bombed, like, that is not how it's supposed to go down. So I don't know what more to make of it. I don't blame Harrison Ford for Indiana Jones 5 not doing well. But I know he's at the end of his leash here, and they also mention here in this interview that, he seems to be having more fun now, and he realizes that he's sort of close to the finish line of his acting career. He's going to be 83 years old in July, and he's doing Shrinking. And I don't know that he's
never won anything.
He got nominated for an Oscar, never won the Oscar. I'm sure he'll get the honorary ones or whatever. But I guess what it comes down to is, like, we don't have much Harrison Ford left. So the Harrison Ford, from an acting perspective, I hope he lives to be 150, and he might. But great shape for an 83-year-old, but we're running out of new Harrison Ford stuff, and so when we do get him, I'm going to check it out. Even though I'm not going to go see Captain America in the theaters because I saw it.
And that one's not getting good reviews.
It got like 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, but again, it's Harrison Ford playing a Red Hulk. Like, I don't know, Love Harrison Ford. So,
well, on the same kind of path with action heroes, we also have news from Tom Cruise they just did a bunch of trailers and teasers, and they had Tom Cruise as part of the Super Bowl and all these stunts. He did the stunt on the biplane recently where he's like being held on by this tiny little cable. It's like he just keeps testing how can I not die? Is what Tom Cruise does. We've talked about it before, but he recently did an interview with Empire Magazine about the upcoming movie, The Final Reckoning, which is Mission Impossible 8, believe it or not. It was with Tom Cruise and one of my favorite writers, Chris McQuarrie, who, by the way, I really hope does a Star Wars eventually in life. But they were talking about the movie, and the question is this the final one? Is this it? And Tom Cruise said, you got to see the movie. It's a hard thing for me to discuss in the moment because it's really something you have to experience. An epic emotional journey of the entire franchise. And then McQuarrie then follows it up saying, it is, I hope, the satisfying conclusion to a 30-year story arc. I'm pretty confident that people are going to feel that the title was appropriate. So the title is Final Reckoning. So the question is, are they going to kill off Ethan Hunt? And do you think it's the last one, John?
Well, it's funny because the original title for it was supposed to be Dead Reckoning Part 2. And they've changed the title since because Dead Reckoning Part 1 didn't do as well as they thought it was going to.
It did not. So, it was also up against Maverick, wasn't it?
No, it came out after. It came out
the year after?
Yeah, I think a year after.
It was up against Oppenheimer.
And Barbie. Yeah, I think it was. And it just didn't do what they thought it was going to do box office wise, but whatever. I mean, Tom Cruise will keep making these as long as he wants to keep making them. But I do think this is the last one because Cruise is, I never doubt him the same way with Harrison, like I was talking about Harrison Ford. But he's going to be 63, I believe, this year. And we know that Glenn Powell said there's a start date for Top Gun 3. Those movies take a long time to make, and Tom Cruise puts everything into his movies, and we know how long Top Gun Maverick took to make. So you can take 2 years, add to that, and then it's developing another Mission Impossible. You're talking about a 70-year-old Ethan Hunt, and I don't know if Tom Cruise wants to go there. I think he wants to go out with a bang. I do think he's going to have sort of a Bruce Wayne Dark Knight Rises ending where he doesn't die, but he sort of disappears, so that if he ever wanted to come back, he could, but it gives his character finality. And who knows, maybe they bring back like John Voight and be like, remember that guy from the first movie? He's not dead. And he's, I don't know, but I do think that's what might happen, but it does seem like this is going to be the end. And then I guess he is just like, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but that new stunt that they're talking about.
I was going to say, and speaking of like the end, they wanted to go big or go home, so to speak, with the stunts. They've been escalating these stunts. They did that big jump 2 movies ago out of the plane, which he did like 208 times or something ridiculous. Well, this time they're doing one in water, which sounds like a nightmare to me, where you have Ethan Hunt going down to a crashed submarine, and he shot it in an 8.5 million liter water tank, and said that he was breathing in his own carbon dioxide for certain periods just to get the shot. And it builds up in the body and affects the muscles as he's breathing it in, but you have to overcome it all while you're doing it to be present, Cruise says. And Chris McQuarrie's like, yeah, he's in this thing and it's spinning around in the water. He's underwater. He can't breathe and there's debris everywhere. And we just had to get the shot. They say it so casually. And it just sounds like you said, like literally a death trap.
Oh my God.
John, would you do this? And how do you think Tom could ever top these stunts? I mean, he did the jumping the bike off the cliff into the base jumping. And then like, what else is there after this?
Running on the side of the building. He jumped across 2 buildings and shattered his leg. Like his that toes, shot's in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, aside from Tom Cruise like flying himself in a rocket into outer space, he's pretty much covered everything. And he almost did that. Like Maverick almost does that in Top Gun Maverick. But yeah, that I'm claustrophobic in a certain like sense where if I feel like if my head it sounds so stupid, but if like my head is stuck in a sweater hole or something, I'm like I start like freaking out. Like if I know I can't get my hand gets stuck in something and like just being enclosed not only in your gear but also underwater, and that is a different type of claustrophobia. And also just deep dark water is like the scariest thing on earth. Like there are parts of the ocean we haven't even explored yet. Who knows what's that down there? So the whole thing, like I went snorkeling in Aruba, and there were like shipwrecks, and the whole time I'm like, imagine just like a shark just came out and just bit my leg off right now, and I'm in the water as I'm saying that. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm getting no more rum cocktails. Get me on that boat. Get me out of here. So this stuff, it doesn't feel like it's real. Like until I ever like see Tom Cruise in person one day and I'm like, so that he is a human being and he was doing that. I'm like, it's just doesn't feel real because I can't fathom it doing anything he does. So I'm so desensitized, I guess, because Tom Cruise does all this stuff that now it's like, oh, what's he doing now? Oh, well, that makes sense. So,
it's like he's constantly testing how far he can go.
He constantly pushes the limit. He is Pete Mitchell. He is Maverick. He's just always pushing the limits. Yeah.
He definitely likes it. Yeah, this is terrifying to me. Any of the stuff he does is terrifying. I'm terrified of heights and deep water, and he's doing both these things. So
yeah, I'm afraid of heights too. So
yeah, so no thanks. Into our next story, because this is just terrifying me talking about it. We're actually going to talk about a little Ariana Grande Butiera, which is her new name she goes by. Who's been reportedly offered several projects, but has yet to engage, according to The Hollywood Reporter. She's been offered, by the way, quickly, a little bit of a side tangent. She, of course, is Ariana Grande, the pop star, which everybody knows, who plays Glinda in the current adaptation of the Broadway play Wicked, which has made $700 million. And she's up for an Oscar this year, so she's doing the press rounds. So they're saying that she's up for a disaster wedding comedy, a female detective romp in a Housewives-style reality show, and a Spaceballs sequel.
Oh.
To which Grande responded, quote, "I can neither confirm nor deny, but I'm blushing. I'm like so blushing." So, John, I know you like Spaceballs. I'm going to be honest. I've never seen Spaceballs. Do you think they have her as the princess character?
Yeah, we talked about the Spaceballs sequel, like Josh Gad's doing it or whatever.
And he loves Ariana Grande.
Yeah. And Josh Gad loves Disney because he does everything for them.
He literally, every video I see, they're like, we're on this ride today. And he's like, oh, look, it's Josh Gad. It's like he sleeps at Disney.
Yeah, remember I was like, when they were talking about there was a panel for Galaxy's Edge, and I'm like, I guarantee you there's going to be a video of Josh Gad like walking through Galaxy's Edge or whatever. And
it was so scripted. It was so scripted.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't even know where to start with this. So the Spaceballs
I'm not surprised. She is a good actress. I'm going to start there. She has great comedic timing. We've seen it on SNL and in her earlier career on Nickelodeon. She is a great comedic actress. She then pivoted into singing, had a ton of success, obviously, done a bunch of crazy stuff. Now she's gone into Wicked, which is her, quote, dream role. It's the role that she's wanted since she was like 10 or 12. That was the role that she wanted. She got it. She's friends with Kristen Chenoweth, who played the original Glinda. Like, she's 1 for 1, batting her perfect role.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The Spaceballs thing, like we said when we talked about that, like I think this is a mistake. I don't think they should make it, so I'll just leave that there. So I actually hope she doesn't do it. I think she actually might be above a Spaceballs sequel, to be honest. And then a female detective romp, so a comedy set in a housewife style reality show. That seems like she could crush that. So that makes sense. And a disaster wedding comedy, I could see her doing well there too. Because I agree, I didn't know how funny she was until I saw her skits on SNL. I'm like, wow, she actually really has a sense of humor. And I just always thought she was like this uppity, snobby, like mean girl. But so that was a great. I think that SNL hosting gig did a lot for her without people understanding what it did for her, because it so made me see her in a different light. And a lot of times when people host SNL, you sort of get what you're expecting. Like if Dave Chappelle hosts SNL, you're like, oh, we're gonna get Dave Chappelle just crushing Dave Chappelle humor. With Ariana Grande, you're like, oh, I don't know. And then all of a sudden she's just like doing all these different voices and New York accents, and she was almost like it was like Sherry O'Terry was back on SNL. She was so good.
That Domingo skit was everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then when that happens, it's like, man, she really made a mark with this. So I think it's all very interesting. I'm actually starting to think like maybe she should have been the one cast as Snow White.
I mean, maybe. You don't know if it was offered to her and she just said no for Wicked instead.
Could be. Yeah. So I don't have much else to say. I think that I would like to see her in more comedic stuff, in films, and to see what she can carve out there, because I'm not the biggest, musical fan. So I know she found this success with Wicked, and I think that's just amazing if that's true, that was like a 10-year-old her realizing a dream. Like that's its own fairy tale stuff. So that good for her. That's really cool. But I'm curious to see what she can bring to the table in a comedy movie. So it's good to see that seems to be where she might be wink, wink steering, as she says, like, I can't confirm, but I'm blushing,
Yeah, she's also been rumored to be up for the Audrey Hepburn biopic, which is explaining why she's been wearing a lot of like very tight buns, like certain type of dresses.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah. Yes. I do want to ask you though, because you talked about her PR change. And she does have a quote in here of this article at Hollywood Reporter that I think is important, because people, like you said, do view her as thank you next. Yeah. Ariana Grande, because that's what she said in her songs all the time. I love Ariana Grande as a singer, by the way. Huge fan. She has totally pivoted her kind of public persona into this Ariana Grande Butera, which is her real name, actress. Like, I am not Ariana Grande the singer anymore, which I kind of compare it very much to Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is a different person when she's acting compared to the caricature or character of Lady Gaga the pop star. Like, her new song that came out, Lady Gaga Abracadabra, is very kind of like, we're talking like 2009 Lady Gaga. Like, she is back in her prime, like Poker Face, Bad Romance, Lady Gaga. But A Star Is Born is very different. It's a different type of Gaga. I think that's what you're getting with Ariana Grande, but she did give a quote about it. And she said, quote, at a certain point, you get tired of that pop star character, because it is a character. She said, there are pieces of you in your story that are woven throughout your songwriting, but then because of the way it travels and becomes sensationalized, it gets away from you. And beneath all of it is just a girl from Boca who loves art. And I think that's why it's been such a deeply healing gift to disappear into this character and take off one mask and put on another. So speaking to what you were talking about at the beginning of the show, she's acknowledging that, look, I'm a different person now. And for people that aren't fans of her music, that haven't really followed her over the years like someone like me has, she was involved with Mac Miller. Then she was dating all these other people. Pete Davidson at one point. She was in the kind of the R&B hip hop scene. She's a pop star. She almost got killed in a bombing in Manchester, England. They bombed the stadium. Mac Miller then committed suicide, unfortunately, which is so heartbreaking. Your first true love decides to take their own life. It's very traumatic. She's been very open about her mental health and going to a therapist and working through these issues. And I actually laughed really hard. She was on, I believe it was Jimmy Kimmel the other day. She's making the rounds, of course, going into the Oscars, but she was talking about how when her Oscar nomination came out, everybody who was anybody was calling her. And she said her therapist called her, to wish her congratulations. And she's like, even my gynecologist called me. And she's like, here's my phone, and it's my gynecologist. I'm like, oh my God, is everything okay? Is there something wrong? Like, and they were like, no, I just want to congratulate you. And she's like, oh, okay. And she was like,
you're also due for a
yes. So like she was laughing about it because she was like, here, I see their number on my phone. And I'm like, oh my God, is everything okay? But yeah, I do find it nice to see that she's acknowledging that, look, when you go through different parts of your career and life, you become different people. And through these experiences, you then become someone else to that next phase in your life. I know I can speak from my own personal experience. Like, I'm a different person than I was at 25. And she's 31 now. So back when she was in her early 20s, mid 20s, she was Ariana Grande, the pop star. Compared to 31, now she's going into kind of this acting phase, and she's going into something probably a little bit more serious with her craft. And that's okay too. I just hope people respect the changes and growth that she's having. And I wish her nothing but success, honestly. Like, she has been killing it. And it is, like you said, very heartwarming to know that her first big kind of movie role was her dream role. Like, there are so many moments throughout her career with even pictures of her going backstage to meet Chenoweth back when she was like 12 or something, talking about Wicked and saying, if there was ever a movie for Wicked, I would drop whatever I was doing to be in it.
That's amazing.
So I'm hoping she wins the Oscars. So weeks from now, when we're doing this show and we're talking about who won the Oscars, I hope she's a name that comes out of our mouth.
Is she up for Best Supporting?
Best Supporting, yeah. Which now it's between her and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez, which is its own thing, which we have not talked about at all, by the way, which is a disaster.
I feel like it's all been said. Everyone sort of understands.
Say terrible things, have consequences.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a part of a group that is also under attack in other ways. You should know better than to feel that way. But that's all I'm going to say. But the only smidge part about the Ariana Grande quote about she's taking off one mask and putting on another is sort of her, in a way, at least to me, saying this then is also a character she's playing. And we don't know who the real Ariana is. Yeah, Ariana is. But I think this is all cool. So,
all right. You ready to talk about some trailers?
Oh, let's do it.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
I do too, Paul Rudd. And you know what, Paul Rudd? Because you just said that, we're going to start with you.
We are.
There's a movie coming out called Friendship with Paul Rudd, who everybody loves, and Tim Robinson, that wacky guy from those clips that you see on TikTok and Instagram, that's actually from a TV show that he does on Netflix. Lacey, we watched the trailer. We got Friendship coming out in theaters in May. Going up against one of the other movies we're going to talk about. But what'd you think of the trailer for Friendships? Is it a good trailer? And are you interested in the movie?
I am not interested in this movie whatsoever.
Oh,
I have watched the Tim Robinson show on Netflix with Matt, and it's the same thing in every sketch. It's this awkward, draw it out till you feel uncomfortable, and then you're laughing because you feel uncomfortable, and then there's one funny moment that you genuinely laugh, and then you're back into that like, oh God, what is happening? And then it immediately cuts to the next scene. And this trailer felt like it was a joke. Like, I feel like if they came out on this day and people went to see the movie and it was like a big prank, that when you went to the movie, it was just a video of him sitting there being like, why are you here? I wouldn't be surprised, because it just looks so fake. Like, from the quotes that are like, funniest movie I've seen all year, it just looks like a fake movie.
Interesting.
Doesn't it? Kind of.
I don't know what to make of it. I typically like a lot of Paul Rudd comedies, especially when he's playing off another guy, and it's like this like buddy friendship thing, like, you know, I Love You Man and Role Models, and he's very good in those types of roles.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, this one is a wild card because I feel the same way about Tim Robinson. I think there is a uniqueness to him that I respect very much, but it's also like a little bit of like an Andy Kaufman, because you're not really sure what he's all about. I do agree with you that there's a lot of repetition to his style of humor, and it's clear that that humor is very visible in this movie, like when he's
It's
sitting at
in
that
the
drum
trailer.
set. Yeah,
Yeah, and he just
exactly.
starts screaming randomly.
Yeah.
He's quiet the whole time, and then he has one crazy outburst, and then he's back to being quiet again.
This feels very much like a cable guy, like a guy who someone befriends him and then they don't want to be friends anymore, and then he like just stalks them. So it feels very cable guy. And Cable Guy is not the most talked about Jim Carrey movie, but if you go back, it actually is pretty good. So I don't know what to make of this. I don't think it's a good trailer though. So if the quotes about it are accurate, then this is a bad trailer, but I'm still going to see it. However, it will not be in a theater.
Did you say theater?
Yeah, I did. You don't like
Hate that.
Right. Well, do you hate this next one? Because competing along with Friendship is Marvel's Thunderbolts, which is hitting theaters May 2nd. Florence Pugh leading the charge here. Short haircut, questionable Russian accent. Lacey, is this a good trailer? And what do you think about Thunderbolts? I think I might have an idea about how you're going to steer on this one.
I think you have an idea because I said this right before we started recording, but this is the first movie I will openly say it should have been a series. This trailer looks like they're doing the same formula. We were complaining about Disney earlier. It is the same thing that Disney does now, or action movies do, which they're like, let's find a 90s or 80s song and then bring it in for nostalgic feel, but then also have epic like dun 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 no moments. And they try to do these like beats where it's like serious, serious, serious action, funny comment, serious, 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 funny comment, music, music, funny comment, serious, dun dun dun.
And all the other surrounding sound when the funny comment's happening is sucked out, so it's just funny comment. And then the sound kicks back in. Yeah.
Yes, it is like a formula. I don't know what company they're using, but they're doing the same template on every trailer, Disney. You should not pay them as much money as you're paying them. This trailer just, I don't know, this is such a drawn out series. And I remember they announced this years ago. And all these series seem to be leading up to this with like the Black Widow movie. And then you had Captain Winter Soldier, Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier leading into this. It's too much. Like it gets to a point that like I look at this movie and I'm like, these are all secondary characters they're trying to make a movie out of it when those were stronger when they're up against the main characters. Like Florence Pugh's character was great when she was paired with Black Widow.
Yeah.
They're trying to make her own thing. It's too much. Focus on that one character. It's again, I feel like this would have done very well as a series. I feel like this is a Disney push to be like, hey, we need to get people in the movies. We need to make more movie money. And this is going to suffer because of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I wasn't impressed by the trailer. Nothing wowed me. I didn't feel a need to watch it a second time. I agree. This feels like it's unapologetically a lower tier output by Marvel. And it also feels like it's Marvel's version of Suicide Squad. It's like, we have no powers, but we like each other and we're weird. And it's like, okay.
Which I think the comic book was also a response to Suicide Squad.
Yeah. So, and Suicide Squad, they did two cracks at it, David Ayer and of course James Gunn, who did arguably a better version. But that also was sort of on its own island. And when you look at when this is being released, you have Captain America coming out now. And then in May, you're going to do this. but then everyone's looking at Fantastic Four because they know that's the real restart for the reapproach to the Avengers.
The multiverse saga, I think, is what they're calling it, right?
Yeah. So if people are, and Marvel's telling you like Fantastic Four is gonna really kick things into motion, then why should I go see this movie, Disney? Why should I pay money to go see this one? So I agree with you, Lacey. I don't think it's a good trailer. I don't think it has enough star power. And that's no offense. Like Sebastian Stan is amazing. He crushed it in The Apprentice. The Oscar nominated. I get all that, but Sebastian Stan, like I was saying about Rachel Zegler before, like people are not like, I got to go see the Sebastian Stan movie. And I Florence Pugh, I don't know that either. I don't even know, like Marvel doesn't really go by stars, but there are some like Robert Downey Jr. and stuff that'll pull people in, but it's mainly the characters that do it for Marvel. And I don't know that enough people care about these characters. If Captain America is projecting to not do great with Harrison Ford, Anthony Mackie, massive special effects, a Red Hulk, political intrigue, ties to the bigger story, and that's not projecting to do well, I don't know how this is going to do well. So I think Thunderbolts might be a misfire for them, and it might be one that they're already prepared for. But the next one, a lot of criticism because it's shot-for-shot remake. Lacey, I'm going to start with this one and say that I think How to Train Your Dragon, which is in theaters June 13th, is a good trailer, and I think it's going to be a good movie. And I'm happy to say that I've never sat down and fully watched the How to Train Your Dragon movies. I intend to do that with my kids, but I can't stand Jay Baruchel, so this might be the one I watch first.
Which you've said before.
Yeah.
Yes. I think this looks awesome. I don't know what people are complaining about. It looks amazing, shot for shot, like it's the movie made into live action. Disney was like, we're doing our live action, and DreamWorks was like, nah, just hold on. We got you, and we're going to do it better than you. Which this is also perfectly paired with the new Epic Universe that's opening at Universal Studios in Florida, which has a section of the new portal park to How to Train Your Dragon, and images leaked this week that you can do a meet and greet with Toothless, with an animatronic Toothless, that you go and meet the dragon, and you could put your hand on his face and all that stuff. This is all kind of paired together. It just seems like, to me, I'm surprised myself, for the first time, it seems like Universal is like triple stepping Disney. Like the park themselves, they have like a Frankenstein Dark Universe section. They have the Mario section. They have the new Harry Potter section with the Ministry of Magic, which looks insane. Mm-hmm. Then they have Shrek. Then they have this. Like, it just looks like they, and it's a known fact that a lot of Imagineers that have left Disney for whatever reason have moved to Universal and are using their creativity and engagement and experience stuff for that park. This is another example. Like, you're going to walk into that park and experience this island where they live and where the dragons are. And you're going to see dragons all around, and you're going to get to go and have beers in their pubs and stuff. Like, it is just like what they did with Harry Potter, which is already better than what Disney has done. I would argue that Harry Potter World or Hogwarts or even Diagon Alley in Universal, 100 times better than Galaxy's Edge. 100 times better. It looks better. It's cooler. It's more engaging. There's more stuff, more secrets, more interesting,
more familiar
intrigue. The dragon on top of the building that breathes fire like every 30 minutes. That's insane. And they did the whole, there's a term for it, which I'm blanking right now, but it's the perspective of when you walk through the little tunnel to go in and then you walk out. Disney stole that from Universal with Galaxy's Edge. Like, I'm sorry, they're doing it better. And this is another example. This movie looks awesome. It's going to make buckets of money.
Probably.
This film has done so well animated, it's going to do just as well live action. The soundtrack is by John Powell. We've had him on TRB. He's awesome. Maybe we should have him come back and come on this show to talk about How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
I would love that. This movie is so good. And John, I can't wait for you to watch it with your kids, because it's one of those movies that, like, I'm waiting for Daisy to be a little bit older to watch it with me, because she's not right there yet. I don't want her to be scared because there are a little scary moments here and there. But overall, I know you don't like Jay, what's his name?
Baruchel.
But you get over it because the movie is very good. And the music alone will make you just like want to ride a dragon into the sunset.
Oh.
It's lovely. Like we talked about it with Mick Giacchino. Giacchino, sorry. I always say his name wrong. Giacchino. About how he translated space. And I was like, how do you make it feel like space? And he's like, it's not about how space is. It's about how the character perceives space. How does the character feel in space?
Right.
Well, John Powell makes you feel like you're flying above the clouds on a dragon. That's how good his music is. I listen to it all the time. It's like in my rotation of soundtracks.
Oh yeah, I listen to his solo stuff a lot.
But his How to Train Your Dragon is
it is good.
so good.
Yeah.
So it's such like a fun, exciting, like you can feel the air as you're riding a dragon. Like it's just such a light.
And there's an epicness to it too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's super fun. Maybe we have to have him on though. Talk about it. That'd be so fun.
I'm down. Yeah.
But that's it for now.
Yeah, that's it for trailers too. So now, Lacey, let's get into what we're watching now.
We can never leave the house, and we'd just probably sit around all weekend and watch TV.
Go on.
I actually am so pumped because I've been watching a lot of things this past week. First of all, Love is Blind is back on Netflix. My favorite love reality show came back on Valentine's Day with a whole new set of pods, a whole new set of people, and the drama is so good. I'm going to wait for you to watch some of it, John, and then we can talk about it next week. But other than that, I watched 13 Going on 30 again for like the billionth time. It's just such a good movie. Jennifer Garner does the perfect 13-year-old, like the things she does where she's talking to the younger girls in New York being like, oh, you can have a bag if you want. I have a bunch in my closet. Like the stuff that she says is just reminiscent of like things I know I said when I was 13. She just does such a good job. And yeah, it's just such a funny movie, a really enjoyable comfort watch. On the other side of that equation, a non-comfort watch was something that is really outside my comfort zone, which was The Menu, which came out in 2022. I didn't watch it then, but as I hinted at you guys last week, I've been doing work for clients that are kind of in the horror industry space, trying to push myself to take in more horror movies lately, which I know. What? Who am I? I'm putting on my new mask, like Ariana Grande, which is a haunted mask because I'm watching more horror stuff. And The Menu is like a dark comedy horror-esque movie. And I'm actually going to admit I enjoyed it. It sat with me for a week and I really liked it. And I keep bringing it up in conversation with Matt because I've liked it so much that I like want to keep talking about it. And I know I texted you, John, right after I watched it. I was like, have you watched this? It's on Netflix. You need to watch it. So maybe next week we can talk about that as well with Love is Blind.
What's the very loose premise without giving anything away? Because I saw a clip from it and I'm like, I don't understand this.
Nicholas Hoult takes Anya Taylor-Joy to an island for dinner.
That's it?
I don't want to give anything away.
Okay.
I went in with no understanding what it was. The only understanding I got was that it was Nicholas Hoult and Anya Taylor-Joy, and she has red hair because originally the role was supposed to go to Emma Stone.
Interesting.
So it went to Anya instead, which Anya was incredible. I don't want to ruin it for you. I think you're really going to like it because it's something that I think you would normally enjoy, whereas I'm like kind of stepping outside of what I normally
And where is it?
like.
Amazon?
Netflix.
Netflix, okay. Yeah,
it just came up on Netflix. And the last thing I've been watching this week, which is kind of like a bittersweet nostalgic thing, is Bear in the Big Blue House. So this is a show that was on, I thought it was on Nickelodeon, but I feel like I might be misremembering because it was on Disney Channel. I thought it was on Nickelodeon to start. It's Jim Henson, and it is on Disney Plus, and they just put it on Disney Plus recently within the past week or so. And it's a puppet show where you have a big bear and you have Tutter the mouse, Ojo the bear, You have Pip and Pop, who are otters, and then Trilo, who's like a lemur. And they all live in this big house, which is funny because it's very reminiscent of Gabby's Dollhouse, which is something on Netflix. They have like a big house that they open it up. It's a lot of physical stuff. But it's something I watched. It came out in 1997. It ran for, I think, 7 years. Won a bunch of Emmys and very popular. But it's been kind of hard to find because unless you have it on VHS or you watch it in like this grainy, horrible YouTube version, you can't really find it. Well, Disney uploaded all the episodes onto Disney Plus recently, and you can watch it there. So I'm interested to see if you'll show it to your Daisy and Johnny, because they'd probably like it. But it's like full on puppet suits. Like we're talking like Big Bird suit for Bear, and then all the other things. It's so fun to watch. Not just because Daisy loves it. She's obsessed. Not because it's just like I love it because it's Jim Henson and it has like nostalgic feels, but it's really fun to watch how they do things. So like you have to think like, oh, they're putting the animal here because the person's behind the counter with their hand up. Or like, oh, they have the mouse in the pocket of the jacket because the person's really in the coat rack doing the puppet. Like Bear has the Big Bird arms, which is one arm is just standard, and then the other arm is the actual hand, but the guy's other hand is up in the head, who's doing the like all the stuff. So he's walking around like this, and it's just so fun to look at, especially because we were talking earlier about the Muppets. You don't see this stuff anymore. And I was kind of thinking about it earlier that growing up, I really enjoyed like the Muppets and stuff like this. Eureka's Castle, which was something I believe was Jim Henson, Allegra's Window, Sesame Street, which was all kind of like puppeteers, puppets, practical effects, all this stuff. And it really just shows you like the DNA that has built who I am as like a creative person, as what I enjoy, as what I find myself coming back to, which oftentimes with Star Wars is the creature stuff, all comes back to this. And I for a long time, I was like, I should have been like a puppeteer or something. I feel like I really would have enjoyed that in my lifetime. But yeah, so you said, I don't know if it was here, TRB, off the cuff, we record these at the same time. We were talking about how I watch a little Jim Henson. Like this is one of the things that I was watching that like, it just brought up my love for it. And I really miss that they don't do stuff like this anymore. Like kids shows are very like computer animated 3D stuff. It's not really 2D cartoons anymore, and it's not practical stuff like this, and I just long for it to be a thing again.
Yeah, absolutely. I do love that stuff. I grew up on all that stuff, Fraggle Rock, all that Henson affiliated stuff. So yeah, I do remember that, and I did look it up. It was Disney Channel that originally had put it out. And I guess the guy who played the Big Bear also wrote for Eureka's Castle. And he got his start at Sesame Street. He was in Follow That Bird.
Was he the dragon in Eureka's Castle? Because they have similar voices.
I don't know if it said he wrote for it. I don't know if he played a character.
Oh my God. Eureka's Castle was like my jam. That and Allegra's Window.
Nice. For me, I watched WWE Royal Rumble. John Cena made his return. Definitely looked a little rusty. But that was cool to watch. I thought that was like really entertaining. I know a lot of people don't like him. Logan Paul is absurdly good at professional wrestling. I don't understand it. He is so good. He has no reason or understanding to be like this good at professional wrestling, but he is unreal at how good he is. It's like blows my mind. So he was in there. This like YouTuber called iShowSpeed, who has like 40 million subscribers. Like a wrestler got hurt, so he entered the Royal Rumble, and he's like this little dude who's like 140 pounds, and he does a backflip in the stage, and this guy who's one of the Steiner brothers' sons, he's now a popular wrestler and a champion, Braun Breaker, speared him and like looked like he almost killed the guy. It's just a wild event, and WWE is just like crushing everything right now. So if they start getting better with their story angles, I may watch it because I actually do love the stories in WWE sometimes when they're good. I also started watching the Tom Green show again because that like and Tom Green, like, it's so funny because like there would be no Jackass if it wasn't for Tom Green. He was the first webcast. Like, he was way more innovative than people give him credit for. But when he was really popular on MTV, I was 17. Like, it was right in my wheelhouse. And me and my friends loved Tom Green. And I'm going to see him do comedy at the end of March. He's doing a comedy tour. And it's just gonna be wild to see like Tom Green because he's such an innovator. He doesn't get enough credit. His new documentary I was talking about, I think last week on Amazon, shows his whole journey of like where he came from nowhere in Canada, how he just like worked so hard to get where he got, and then his cancer struggle and his return from that, and now he moved away from LA and he lives on like a farm in Canada closer to his family. It's just like really cool story and retrospective on his career because he was really very innovative and I think deserves a lot more credit for a lot of things that became popular after him. So I watched the old Tom Green episodes. I'm like, oh my God, I remember when he did that. That is crazy, you know? So I'm glad I'm going to go see him do stand up at the end of March. And then I haven't finished it, but I did start watching Kinda Pregnant.
Oh no, I refuse.
So what I did was I'm like, I'm going to put this on and then I'm going to tell Lacey how many minutes I lasted. And I got about like 30 minutes in, but I had to stop because I just ran out of time and I had to leave the house. But it's not good. It's not great. It feels like it is trying to follow a sort of rom-com blueprint that Trainwreck did, the movie she did with Bill Hader. But it doesn't have Bill Hader in it. It has Will Forte instead, and it doesn't have as good writing. So it's just...
I was going to say, I'm sure she's also a worse person now than she was then.
Yeah, the only thing I'll give it credit for, which I think I don't pay attention to because I'm a dude, is, you know, it brings to the forefront a lot of, I guess, everyday imperfections that women have that, you know, I see with when you're close to somebody, my wife or, you know, whatever. And I think a lot of movies gloss over that. And like Amy Schumer is not, you know, a rail thin, you know, model trying to be an actress, but I still don't like her. I'm just trying to give the movie some credit. But I don't know if I'm going to finish it or not, to be honest. Not great, but
I did want to mention that Noel, it's either Noel or Noel. I'm assuming it's Noel McNeil, who does Bear in the Big Blue House, also did the dragon in Eureka's Castle, Magellan,
he did the dragon,
and also does Sweetums for the Muppets.
Yeah, he played a character in Follow That Bird. I don't know if I talked about that on this episode or another episode. And he got his start with Sesame Street, so like, very cool. And I think I assume he's still working too. So
he is. He does a lot of stuff for John Oliver's show recently.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. That's what we're watching. Those are our thoughts on the trailers and our takes on the news and all the nerdy fun that we have here on Nerdy Nice. So thanks to everybody for watching, listening, hanging out, and getting nerdy with us. We hope you have a good time with our show. For me anyway, doing it is always a good time because there's so many things that Lacey and I love talking about besides Star Wars, and now we get to do it here. So thanks to everybody who's given us a shot on this podcast. If you're checking it out for the first time, just a reminder, Nerdy and Nice is on its own audio feed, so make sure you find us on Spotify, Apple, or Acasts, Pocket Casts, one of those, and you follow us there so you get the weekly episodes of Nerdy and Nice. And if you want to rate us, look what happened to Terry, top of the show. She won our first giveaway contest. Good things happen. We'll have more giveaways in the future for sure. But yeah, just thanks to everybody for checking us out here. And go to trbpodcast.com if you want to pick up a Nerdy and Nice shirt. We got the pocket tees and a lot of other cool stuff. And you can also access the show right there too. Lacey, we also should announce our watch along that we're doing on Patreon. What are we doing?
We are doing on the 25th, which would be next week, next Tuesday. We are doing a watch along at 9 p.m. Eastern on our Patreon page for Labyrinth, which, again, going back to who I am as a person, that is one of my favorite movies from childhood to now, which explains a lot because it's Jim Henson with George Lucas mixed in there a little bit. It's a good time. I have the vinyl record of the soundtrack downstairs, I realize. I love that movie.
You gonna scratch a little while we're watching the movie?
Absolutely not. Don't scratch my records.
I've never seen it. I've never seen Labyrinth, so it'll be interesting.
That's so crazy to me. That's so crazy.
But no, I'm looking forward to it. And it'll be fun. So if you're on our Patreon, definitely check it out. And it'll be thereafter if you can't join us live, but joining us live will be fun. You'll be able to see my first reaction to it. And if you haven't joined our Patreon, sign up because we have a lot more stuff on there as well. Discord server, a lot of cool stuff, and tiers start at $5, and all your support allows us to keep doing what we're doing and continue to grow. So thank you all. Anything else, Lacey?
I don't think so. I've now already have tabs open for other childhood shows that I watched.
Nice. Well, watch them and then we'll talk about them next week.
Yeah, I'll have to find some clips.
Well, where can people hit you up to talk to you about this stuff and more?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran, and of course on TRB every week talking about Star Wars specifically.
That's right. For me, Johnny Hoey on Blue Sky is the best spot. My other movie pod, Just Like the Movies, and TRB Thursday podcast, video, all the good stuff as we inch closer to Star Wars Celebration. And we have to give a special shout out, of course, to our movie star generals and our silver screen spice runners on Patreon. Your support has meant the world to us, blows us away that you believe in what we're doing. And we want to say thank you to Carmelo, John Risi, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Danny, Mike Ramori, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Colin Cormier, Stephen Garrow, Sachi, and Darth Snips. And the Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, KENDALL, GELNER, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and THEFORTWORTHIAN. Thank you all so much. We'll be back next week with another episode of Nerdy and Nice. Happy birthday, Lacey. Hope you have a wonderful day doing nothing. Maybe some nothing. Maybe some good birthday nothing. But don't you dare sing happy birthday to Lacey. Sing like the Beatles song or something, right? Do you like that one?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No. They say it's your birthday.
Oh, that one. I'm fine. I just don't like being the center of attention. So like when you're at a dinner and they bring out the cake and everyone's singing, like it's so embarrassing.
Unless you're called up on stage at Star Wars Celebration in front of thousands of people, then that's okay.
But that's not singing happy birthday to me. That's like me joking around with DJ Elliott, who wants you to play a game. Like that's different.
What would you do? This will never happen. What would you do even if it wasn't your birthday and you went on stage and he started doing that?
I'd get off the stage.
I would too, I think.
It's so awkward. I would literally be like, okay, thanks so much.
You just turn and walk.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next time here on Nerdy and Nice. So until then, we'll see you around, kids.